I did not know that gay people existed until 7th grade, which is ridiculous.
That was a clip of my friend Elizabeth Ayler talking about her experiences with heteronormativity. So what is heteronormativity? According to Ashley Moore, a scholar from the University of British Columbia whose work has been focused primarily on heteronormativity in English language teaching textbooks, heteronormativity is a form of oppressive ideology in which heterosexuality is assumed to be the normal and often only pattern of human romantic relationships. To put it simply, heteronormativity is often an indirect way of erasing queer identities in society. Although often not noticed by those who aren't looking for it, heteronormative behaviors and actions can often leave LGBTQ+ individuals feeling invalidated and excluded. So Ashley Moore, the same scholar who I sourced earlier, created this chart of heteronormative behaviors based on a scale of how damaging they are. Obviously, the least offensive behavior is queer inclusion. After that, it goes down the scale with heteronormative mainstreaming, heteronormative marginalization, heteronormative erasure, and explicit heterosexism. Throughout this documentary, I will be covering all these terms and examples of them in real-life circumstances. Heteronormative mainstreaming is the inclusion of queer identities in media while still sticking to heteronormative norms. This means that while queer relationships are seen, they are oftentimes white married couples with children. The objective behind heteronormative mainstreaming is to have the illusion of diversity while still supporting the image of what American culture deems as normal. An example of this is Mitchell and Cam from Modern Family. Cam and Mitchell were one of the first gay couples ever seen in mainstream media. However, despite being together the entire series, their first kiss is in season 2 after social pressure was put on producers. Heteronormative marginalization is the attempted inclusion of queer identities, however done in a way that frames queerness in a marginalized sense that can reinforce stigmas. This is usually done with good intentions, however limits discussions of queerness to discussions about AIDS or HIV, or even to discussions about taboo controversies. An example of this could be a school debate about the legitimacy of non-heterosexual or cisgender, which means to identify as the same gender that you were assigned with at birth, identities. Since the debate actively opens the floor to anyone to morally judge and demean queerness, it contributes to acts of homophobia. It adds to the issue when you consider how alternate sexualities, specifically heterosexuality, are never debated or doubted. Heteronormative erasure is the removal of queer identities from record, or the act of minimizing their significance. Queer erasure is very prominent in our sex education courses here at Pewaukee, which is why I brought in a student to talk about her experience. This is my sister Sarah. She's a sophomore, so this year she took the health class at Pewaukee High School. So Sarah, could you give me a brief summary of what you learned in the sex ed unit in health class?
We learned a lot about safety and prevention of an STD and pregnancy, and she told us a lot about like IUDs and other methods to prevent all of that in general.
Okay, so I've got a quote here from an article written for Lesley University. When sex education is limited to the sex-negative focus of abstinence only or disease and pregnancy prevention, the messages are deeply entrenched in binary gendered ideas and the assumption of heterosexuality. So how do you feel this idea relates to our sex ed course? Do you feel it relates at all here at Pewaukee?
I do think it relates because they speak a lot about sex ed between a man and a woman, and they don't even like talk about anything else. And when they teach us sex ed, they basically are assuming that it's always going to be between a man and a woman and like nothing else.
Yeah. So do you feel, on that note, as though you still lack knowledge about sex education? And then do you feel this has any relation to like your identity or who you are?
Yes, because personally I do not identify as straight, and so there's a lot of sex ed, like information that maybe I do not know that could be super helpful for me in the future, and that I probably should know, but I just don't because they weren't teaching it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
To preface before I show this clip, explicit heterosexism is the outright discrimination or discouragement of queer identities based on the idea that heterosexuality is the normal sexual orientation.
What happened? I don't know. You fell asleep, That is all.
Yeah. All right, well, I better go.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, but not about this.
No, never. Never. So, bye.
No touch.
In this clip, Joey and Ross taking a nap together is played for laughs. Despite there being nothing inherently romantic about it, both characters feel embarrassed and later feel the need to hide it. Even later in the episode, their friends expose them for this. This clip is a great example of explicit heterosexism. By using this bit for laughs, the show is reinforcing the idea that any act of affection with the same sex is abnormal or weird. Specifically, it reinforces male gender roles and the role expectation that men are not supposed to be affectionate with their same-sex friends, especially since they are later confronted about it by the rest of the characters, which encourages the audience to cast a negative moral judgment about Joey and Ross's actions. This is my friend Lily Tome.
Hi.
So, Lily, what has your experience been with heteronormativity?
When I was younger, I had a lot of trouble with kind of understanding that women liking women was a normal or like kind of natural thing that some people go through. When I was younger, I was a part of a lot of like religious things, and when you're a part of religious things, there's a lot of things talking about Adam and Eve, and you know, it kind of never talks about anything relating to like men liking men and women liking women. So when I started liking women too, I thought that there was like Satan, or like something was wrong with me, and I started freaking out and I didn't know what to do, which like I just thought something was wrong with me. And I mean, I wouldn't say it's really the church's fault in a way. In some circumstances it is. I think it's more like the stigma of it not being natural. It's kind of traumatizing to figure out that you like liking women and men can be like a thing that happens. Like some people are just attracted to both genders, and but nobody told me that at all, so I had to figure it out myself.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you feel people can go about shifting the ideals that fuel heteronormativity?
Probably just being more open about it, and just changing the way we approach teaching about it. When we teach about it at a younger age, or like even in media, like putting it in cartoons, like adding stuff like that, it can really help kids be like, oh, it's on the TV, so therefore it's gotta be normal. It helps kids cope in a way, or like understand that it's something that, like, I don't know.
That's
normal. It's normal.
Luckily, heteronormativity is something we can all work together to fix. Whether it be by asking people you know if they have a partner rather than a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or by calling out behavior that perpetrates heteronormative ideals. It's essentially guaranteed that most, if not all, members of the LGBTQ community have dealt with the drawbacks of heteronormativity in their lifetime. So I encourage you to actively work to be more inclusive in general with both your language choices and your actions. And I thank you for watching this documentary.